Very good morning, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Very good morning to you. Very good morning to the officials in the Secretariat of IGAD. We start our last day on this workshop. So we have about 4 presentations this morning. I give the floor to Professor Makwana to lead us and to chair the session on the first 4 or 5 presentations. The floor at yours, Prof.
Good morning, members. This morning, I think being our last day, we'll try and capture a few activities. One of the things that I'll start with today, I think we talked about credit hours and notional hours and volume of learning. So I'll just talk briefly about that because it's very, very important when it comes to the actual standardization of our education and harmonizing our education systems. Then I think there's a template somebody has asked. So if I want to establish a national qualification framework, what are the steps? So we'll walk through, and you already are familiar with this table because I had shared with all of you. Then I will allow Fasaha to, we've looked at the governance structure. Yesterday, you did make some comments about it in terms of how it is not linking very well with the national efforts. So he has reworked the governance structure. So he will share what we have redrafted so that we can see what happens there. The other issue that we have talked about is the issue of databases. How do you establish a national database for your qualifications? As we said here, part of the roles that national qualification frameworks does is to give us a database of all your qualifications and the levels and the professions, the sectors they belong to, so that we are able to organize them and harmonize them at the national level for possible sharing at the regional level. So we'll have Dr. Vincent Koech present something on databases. And then yesterday, as we listened to you in your groups, Sagal put together what she thought are some of the recommendations that you may want to take forward to the ministers' meeting. So at some point, she would share what you have said, and then I think we'll allow the chairs of the 4 groups to work with her to finalize the actual communique that comes out of this meeting so that we, as we prepare for the ministers' meeting, we need to be very clear about what this meeting is saying about the regional qualification framework and how you want to take it forward. So if I start with the volume of learning, because the critical thing with the qualification frameworks is that we are thinking about learning outcomes. So we are thinking about what you are able to do after you have learned. For most of us, when we are developing our curriculum, we did it the other way around. You tell us what you will teach. So usually you'll say, at the end of this lesson, I will have taught you about plant cells, about animal cells, but you have taught me, but you're not sure whether I have learned. So the idea behind qualification framework is the framework is emphasizing what I learn when you teach and not what you teach me. So what I learn, either when you teach me or what I learn when I teach myself, or when I participate in work experiences. So that's why we are talking about learning outcomes. So qualification frameworks talk about what you know and what you are able to do, the competences, the skills, and the knowledge that you have after you have learned. And it is also measured in what we call the volume of learning, because we said here, for example, for the IGAD qualification framework, that 1 credit is 10 notional hours or learning hours. So if you're a quality assurance person, how do you ensure, because then that is a tool that a quality assurance agents can use to assure quality. So if, for example, I am taking a certificate course in animal health, and the certificate course is 120 credits, if we multiply those credits by 10 hours, it means that the student must learn 1,200 learning hours or notional hours. So when I come to your college, I want to see how your students are achieving 1,200 learning hours. So how do I do that? I look at the breakdown. So you will go down when you are developing your curricula or your occupational standards, and you will say the certificate in animal health is 1,200 notional hours, or 120 credits. But these 120 credits are taking a full year to cover. So how do you break them down? So you'll say animal anatomy, 3 credits. Animal physiology, 4 credits. Introduction to farming systems, 5 credits. So when you say 5 credits, so I want to see, when you break down this whole course, I should be able to come up with 120 credits. And when you say that farming systems, introduction to farming systems is 5 credits, it means that you're going to teach it for 50 hours, because 5 credits times 10 is 50 hours. So if I come to your timetable this semester or this term, when you are teaching farming systems is taught on Monday for 3 hours, on Wednesday for 3 hours. Some of it is practical, some of it is field tours. On Friday, let's assume for 3 hours, which means per week, you are teaching 9 hours. So for you to reach 50, how many weeks do you teach? So if you are teaching 9 hours, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, that's 9 hours, and you must achieve 50 hours for you to get 5 credits. So how many weeks should that semester be? So 9 times 5 weeks. Is that 5 weeks? You get 45. So you still have a shortage of 5 hours, isn't it? So it's better to go even 6 weeks. So when I come to your timetable, I should be able to audit that timetable and say that you said anatomy is 3 credits, so that's 30 hours. So when I come to your timetable, I should see anatomy 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, 6 hours per week, times 5 weeks, so that I am able to convert. So remember, for all the courses, so when we adopt that mechanism as a country, it means that your primary, your secondary, your TVET, your university, remember when we say 1 credit is 10 notional hours, it applies to all levels, whether you are in TVET, or you are in university, or you are in high school, or you are, so that is the way to do it. So it sounds very easy to say that 1 credit is 10 notional hours, but it should be converted down to where the learning takes place. And also when we talk about notional hours, it includes the learning that the student takes when you are teaching them, the work, that self-directed learning, that they go to the library, to the internet, when they go for field trips, when there are labs, even examinations when they are preparing for exams. So notional hours it's kind of a global standard, and it takes into consideration all forms of learning. And the last thing I want to say about volume of learning, so volume of learning has 3 aspects. So when you are developing your curriculum, you're thinking about the teaching. So how will you teach? And then how will I learn, and how will you assess? So when you assess, you are assessing me to know whether I have acquired the learning outcomes that have been described for that level. And remember, learning outcomes have been described as level descriptors. So when you're assessing me in an examination, you are asking yourself, has this person acquired the learning outcomes for a certificate level in terms of knowledge, skills, and attitudes? So those are the three elements of the learning outcomes. And so basically what you are saying, instead of students competing among themselves, that this one is number one and this one is number two, the student is competing against your standard. You are saying that this student has achieved the standard that you have set for level, for example, 5, for a certificate level. So you look at the learning outcomes for level 5, and you assess the student against that standard, whether he's doing ICT or nursing or geography or mathematics, and then what you are ascertaining is that this student has attained the standard that you have set for a diploma. Whether you are at Makerere or Bugema University or you are in a TVET college, the students are assessed against a standard, and that standard is what we are calling level descriptors. So level descriptors is, once you have come up with the 10 levels of your qualification framework, a level descriptor says for you to be qualified as a level 1 graduate, that you have finished primary school, you should be able to meet this standard. You should be able to perform the following functions. For you to have finished level 2, you should be able to meet this standard. So that's what we are doing, all the way up to level 10, that if you are a PhD holder, this is the standard that Uganda will hold you to account for. And it doesn't matter where you went to learn. So this is basically what it means. I'm trying to simplify this because these words look very many. And so what it means is that when you implement a national qualification framework, you set up a standard that everybody in the country must follow, whether you are in TVET, you are in basic education, you are in university education, that we hold you to account, and we also hold you to ensure that the volume of learning meets the national credits that you have ascertained for that level. So that's what I would like to say. Then the second issue I wanted to go to, and this template, you already looked at it. So one of the questions that I've been asked is, so if I want to develop a national qualification framework, where do I start? Because we can talk very nice things here, but when you go back, that's a question they will ask you. So we are here in Sudan or South Sudan or Somalia, how do we then develop a national qualification framework? So this is what I sent you already. You used this table to collect information about your efforts in your country. So in terms of introduction, you need to come out very clearly and say, why do you need a national qualification framework? And I think the discussion we had in the evening yesterday was bringing it out very clearly, that even within our own countries, first of all, we don't know how many qualifications we have. Sometimes we don't know who is awarding those qualifications. So if I ask you, how many qualifications do you have in Somalia? And who is awarding these qualifications? And how many people have been awarded a certificate in ICT or a certificate in plumbing or in masonry? Because as Africa, we have very few resources. We cannot continue to spend. The only way Africa is going to grow is to say that in Somalia, for Somalia to get accelerated development, we need to focus more resources in ICT, in nursing, so that, and for you to do that, you need data to say we have enough, maybe business managers, we have, as somebody was saying here yesterday, because Africa is a very interesting place. I have gone to places where you have somebody with a PhD in entrepreneurship, and this person is looking for a job. This is a doctor of philosophy in entrepreneurship, but he's been looking for a job. You know, you get the job. He's an expert in entrepreneurship, but he's also looking for a job. He can't create a job. But the mama on the road selling potatoes is able to run a business. So So part of why qualification frameworks, as we said yesterday, is that they're very important as reform tools, that they help you to understand your education and training system, what you have been doing, the challenges it's facing, the people you have produced, how they are functioning within your economy, and how many more you need in which area. So that's the kind of, so introduction there means that you're able to do your justification to say, we need a qualification framework so that we can understand who has been awarded which qualification, which areas do we need, how many plumbers do we need now, how many do we have now, how many do we need in 5 years, in 10 years, so that we are able to project, even as we budget for the Ministry of Education, we can emphasize that in the next 5 years, we will sponsor more students in medicine, in engineering, in ICT, because our economy is looking for more people in this area rather than the other area. And as I indicated, for most of us in Africa, and we have this challenge, that many of us have ended up with a situation where we have people looking for jobs, and you also have jobs looking for people. So you have people without jobs and jobs without people in the same space, because our education is not speaking to the aspirations of our countries. There's a disconnect between the people we are producing and what the market is looking for. And so part of what the qualification framework is supposed to do is to bring you very close to what your market is looking for. And that's why we need a reform mind, as we were discussing yesterday. If you're going to be rigid and say, in Uganda we don't do this, then a qualification framework will not help you. Because a qualification framework is supposed to allow you to think out of the box, to see the challenges that you have as a country, and then see how you can translate that into training objectives that can then be implemented for your country. Then the other issue that we look at is the legal and policy context, because qualification frameworks can be very controversial. So you need the politicians, you need the ministers, the principal permanent secretaries to buy into it. So it's very, very good that you look at your national policies and ensure that there is something on the need for a qualification framework. Even a law. In Kenya, as we said, we have a sessional paper number 1 of 2019 that clearly says we need a national qualification framework so that we can organize our education and training better, so that everybody in the training and education space can use the same standard. Because what used to happen, you go to some countries, in TVET, 1 credit is 6 notional hours or teaching hours. In university, I've seen even in universities where sometimes you even say in sciences, 1 credit is 13 hours, but in arts, 1 credit. So part of why we need a qualification framework is so that we standardize our education, and especially when you start to talk about accumulation of credits and transfer of those credits, then you need a system. So you need a clear policy, you need a clear legal framework, because somebody will take you to court about these qualification frameworks. So if you don't have it in your law, it means that all the efforts that you have done can actually be ended by a court ruling. But if you have it in law, then you are able to defend it in court so that the efforts that you are doing can continue. So it's very, very important that you think about the policy and then the objectives. What is the objective of your qualification? And as Alice was presenting about the Kenyan qualification framework, you see that you have to really come up, what do you want the qualification framework to achieve? So that must be set out very clearly. And then, how many levels do you want? And why? And we said, before you come up with levels, come up with all the qualifications that you have in your system. So we know that we have primary level qualifications, we have high school level qualifications, we have TVET qualifications, you have international qualifications, IGAD, BTEC, you have Germany, you have French, so you put all this into your system. You have TVET, you have university, you have professional, nursing, engineering. So once you populate all of them on the ground, then you agree, if we come up with 8 levels, is there one level we have left out? So if you think about the Kenyan one, for example, we have said, if you finish primary school, you get level 1. If you finish high school, you have a level 2 qualification. If you finish an artisan level certificate, it's level 3. Then you have senior artisan, level 4. Then you have a certificate or craft certificate, level 5. Then you have a diploma at level 6. Then you have a bachelor's degree at level 7. And at level 7, we said for us, you have a bachelor's degree, but you can also have a higher national diploma. You can also have an advanced diploma at level 7. At level 8, you have a postgraduate diploma. So if I have a bachelor's degree and I have taken a postgraduate diploma in law or curriculum development, then I go to level 8. Level 9 is your master's, and level 10 is your doctorate. And then we have level descriptors for each. For you to be a level 1 graduate, you must be able to, to perform the following functions as a person. And so those levels need to come up. And as we indicated here, we found also we had people that had professional degrees. Because at level 7 is the normal degree of Bachelor of Business Management or Bachelor of Education. But what about if you're doing medicine or engineering? So we put that at level 8, the same with the person who has a bachelor's plus a postgraduate diploma. But in your country, you can choose to do it differently. Then the learning outcomes. These are, you'll find that in the TVET area, the skills are very important. But in the university, knowledge is very important. So you need to rationalize that your level descriptors are heavy on skills for the TVET area and heavier on knowledge for the university sector. So you have knowledge, skills, and what we call work behavior or attitudes. How will somebody behave in the workplace? Reforming the Kenyan education system is that for most of us, we emphasize too much on the technical knowledge that the graduate has. But our workplace is looking for soft skills. So as a doctor, it is good to know medicine. But remember, this doctor is going to work in a hospital where there's a cleaner, where the patient who is coming cannot even speak English. When the patient comes to him in the morning, he will say that there's a snake that starts here and comes this way. You see what I mean? That's how the patient describes her disease. So that there's a snake here and it runs this way at night, then it goes back. You know what I mean? So you need a doctor. Currently what we are saying is that actually knowing the technical subjects as an engineer is only half the job. The other half is the soft skills. How do you communicate? How do you work in teams? Do you have leadership? Do you have integrity? So increasingly, our curriculum must bring in more than just, so a doctor needs to know communication skills and leadership and working in teams and those kind of ICT and all these kind of things. So when you are thinking about your learning outcomes, don't just think about a veterinarian and the cows. Because the veterinarian needs to talk to the farmer and they need to do extension, so they need to talk, they need to communicate what they know. So as we think about learning outcomes, we have to think about the soft and the hard skills. And we are saying that the soft skills have been ignored for a long time, and that's why many professionals find it very difficult to articulate and to work among even the societies where they come from. Then, of course, the structure. Remember, we are thinking about how you saw the Kenya National Qualification Framework there. You have the TVET route, you have the academic route, and you can have other aspects that come with it. So you need to conceptualize your. Then how do you involve stakeholders? You need to identify stakeholders within your country. So we've talked about politicians, we've talked about Ministry of Education, we've talked about state agencies, curriculum. So think about, when you think about a qualification, think about anybody who is involved in the whole value chain of our qualification, from developing occupational standards, curriculum development, curriculum delivery, which means we are talking about the teachers, quality assurance, regulatory agencies, accreditation, quality assurance, assessment, certification, and even employers, the labor market. So you think about all the people that are interested in your, if you leave out one person, the private sector, then you'll find that you are developing a qualification framework that is not functional. And then institutional arrangements, who will play a role for what? So for example, if we look at the Kenyan system, you have the national qualification framework at the top. But within the TVET sector, we have a regulator for the TVET sector. Within the university sector, we have Commission for University Education. Within the basic education, we have a regulator for primary and secondary school. So what we do as a national qualification framework is to develop standards for quality assurance. But the actual implementation is done by the regulator for that sector. So they pick our standards and use them in the sector that they are interested in. The issue of recognizing and facilitating non-formal learning. We have said here that millions of our people have skills that we do not know about, or we pretend we don't know, or we don't see, or we have refused to see. That is through a qualification framework to say that this will bring out very clearly. And then how will you regulate? For example, for us, when you register a qualification on the Kenya National Qualification Framework, it must meet a certain standard. And we only register it for 4 years. So you bring your qualification, we register it for 4 years. After 4 years, you have to go back and review because the market is changing. And when the qualification is registered, there are rules and regulations that you must adhere to. If you don't adhere to them, then the qualification is deregistered. So remember, we register your qualification because it meets the national standard. And you as the generator of that qualification, Makerere University, you promise to take care of that qualification. You promise to water it, to weed it, to clean it so that it remains nice for the next 4 years. After 4 years, we remove it, and you haven't go review it with your stakeholders before you bring it back because the market is changing. So the regulatory environment is very important. So I've mentioned here that you need to decide how many levels do you want. That's up to you. How many bands? So the sectors, TVET, academic, work-based learning, formal. Then you need a national body because this area can be very complicated. As we talk here about qualification frameworks, within the East African region, we are still talking about this. But if you go to the SADC region, the Southern African region, the SADC qualification framework has been in existence for almost 10 years. All the countries in Southern Africa, South Africa's SAQA, you saw Naveen presenting here, the South African Qualification Authority has been in existence since 1994. And Botswana, Malawi, Zambia, Mozambique, Angola, Mauritius, Seychelles, they already have their national qualification frameworks that have already been aligned with the SADC qualification framework. And so basically students within the SADC region are already enjoying some of the benefits. So as East Africa and as the IGAD region, we are almost the last ones. If you go to Europe, for example, I already indicated, and Eduardo will be talking about it today, we already have the European qualification framework that is nearly 20 plus years. And then each country in the European Union already has a qualification framework. So Australia, if you go down to Australia, New Zealand, we have national qualification frameworks. So we are doing well, but we need to move a little faster. So you need to think about a national body that will coordinate this, and then the level descriptors, as we've said, are the standards. So level descriptors is the standard that you assign to each level. So for you to be a level 1 graduate, you need this, level 2. And if you go to our website, knqa.go.ke, you will see our level descriptors there. So they are all on our website, knqa.go.ke. Then the governance, how will you govern it? For example, if you come to Kenya, our national qualification framework has representations of people from TVET, from basic, from university, from labor, from professional bodies, from industry, so that all these people can then inform. And then the management, how do you run it? And you'll also see it on our website. Then funding. Qualification frameworks are not very cheap. Our national qualification framework currently, we get funding from the Kenya government to the tune of nearly $3 million every year. So it's not cheap. Some of you have come to our office, you know. When I took over this job in 2018, we were only about 5 of us. Now we are nearly 70 of us employed to run the national qualification framework. And then we have a board, and we report to the ministry, and every year we get $3 million to run some of these things that we are talking about. So it's not cheap, and with time now we have also attracted a lot of international partners, ILO, GIZ, As you grow, you find that other people come in. Then a qualification framework can't run on its own. A qualification framework runs on standards and guidelines. So once you have a qualification framework, for example, if I use the example of Kenya, we have a standard on quality assurance. If your qualification is going to be registered in the National Qualification Framework, so we need a national quality assurance mechanism. And then you need a standard on how accreditation of your qualification will take place, how you'll do RPL, Alice presented this yesterday, how you'll do credit accumulation and transfer, how you'll do recognition and equation of qualifications, how you will carry out recognition of prior learning, because those are the rules. So once you've developed the qualification framework, you need to come up with standards and guidelines on how certain, even for the IGAD qualification framework, we'll be asking ourselves what is the quality assurance standard for all of us in the region so that we can trust your qualification because it meets the same standard, it's using the same rules, the same regulations as mine. How will you accredit those qualifications? How will you recognize prior learning? How will you recognize qualifications? How will you develop a curricula? So we have a standard on how to develop occupational standards, because people just develop occupational standards. But if they are going to be national qualifications, then your development of occupational standards must meet the national standard. If it's going to be a national qualification, then your curriculum must be developed according to the rules that have been developed for a nationally recognized qualification. So we have standards on how to develop a curriculum for a national qualification, how to develop an occupational standard, how to carry out quality assurance, how to recognize, how to equate, how to accumulate and transfer credit. So standards and guidelines then becoming very, very important. I'm almost finishing. And then, of course, your qualification framework must speak to others. Remember, a qualification framework helps you to organize yourself in country so that you can also relate with your neighbors. So you can't develop a qualification framework without looking over what your neighbor is doing. So as Uganda, you want to know what Rwanda is doing, what Burundi is doing, what DRC is doing, what Kenya is doing, what Ethiopia is doing, what is the IGAD doing. Remember now, once we develop as member states of IGAD, once you have your national qualification framework, it has to speak to the IGAD qualification framework and to the African continental qualification framework. Because what you want is you want a student from Somalia to go to Morocco without any problem. And then, of course, there will be opportunities, there will be benefits, there will be challenges, and there will be lessons learned, and all these are very, very important. And that's all I want. You already filled in this table. I think it's very, very important. I hope that this helps you as you think about your national qualification framework. It is very, very important that you put all these aspects that I have indicated with you. And I thank you for your listening.
I think questions and comments, we can take it later on after a presentation from, yes. Yes, so two of them.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair. Mine is not as such too many, but I don't want to take your time. I want to focus on the points that should be taken into consideration when you are talking about governance and structure. One of the major objectives of this meeting is to validate the IGAD regional qualifications framework. Yeah, that's true. But we are expecting the member states to have their own national qualifications framework. So we agreed as a team that member states shall harmonize and customize the IGAD regional qualifications framework to have their own national qualifications framework. So this regional qualifications framework should taken to be as considered as a stepping stone, and then you can take it for granted as one of a source document to have all the member states to have their own national qualifications framework. So in order to do that, we advised that this component, the statement itself, should be incorporated in the regional qualification framework itself. So we advising that these member states shall have customized, harmonize their own national qualifications framework. This idea should be incorporated in the document itself, so that we will all agree on that. That's the first point I just want to highlight. The second point is that, like, we have member states around 8, 7 of them are active, but we need to identify the roles of IGAD, clearly stipulated in the document itself. There are trials that the roles of IGAD are almost included, but we need to refine it. And then the roles of the member states should also be included, especially when we are coming back to the implementation phase. That's very important. So we are advising that the role of IGAD in the member states should be clearly stipulated in the regional qualifications framework itself. And when we are having a kind of implementation document later on, these things should be very clarified. That's the second major point. The third point is we have to see the linkage between the IGAD and the member states implementation bodies. It should be clearly identified. So if we have the regional qualifications framework, how we are going to materialize it? When we have the national qualification framework, there should be a linkage between the IGAD regional qualifications framework and the national qualifications frameworks that members we're going to have. So the linkage should be clearly identified. That's the third point that we have. Maybe this point will be further elaborated when I talk about organogram itself. The fourth point is there are terms which are already stated in the regional qualifications framework in the document itself, but those documents should be defined so that they may not be ambiguous for further use. For example, we are talking about the assembly, we are talking about the ministerial committee. What is ministerial committee in IGAD itself is comprising of? All these documents, there should be a glossary of terms and definition of terms in the document itself so that anybody can understand it while reading it. So these kinds of words should be clearly defined so that every member state should understand it. Anybody who is reading the document should understand it very clearly. That is the fourth point. And the last point is we want to have a kind of revised organogram. You may refer to the document itself. You have the hard copies with you. But we want to have a kind of slight differences. Like we have IGAD at the top of the ladder, but we want to change the kind of regional, the rank should be changed into a ministerial committee. This ministerial committee will oversee the regional experts committee. We want to call that regional experts committee rather than the RAC, we change it into regional experts committee. And under this, we are going to have regional implementation unit, which is based in at headquarters in Djibouti. And we have also the national implementation unit, in which we're going to have the linkage between the IGAD regional qualifications framework and the national qualifications framework, so that we can minimize the organogram, and then it's going to be very clear and understandable. So we are proposing to have these kinds of organogram and structure. Rather than having it in the document itself, we propose to have such kind of very short and clear organogram. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think we proceed to the last presentation. In fact, in this session, we want to finish all the presentations by IGAD. Yes, Dr. Ebele?
No, I just want to elaborate on the structure, which is quite in line with the whole of the education system that, and the social development system that we are operating. So we have the various policy organs of IGAD, including the heads of state summit, the Executive Council of IGAD, composed of the Foreign Affairs Ministers, the Ambassadors Committee. So all those are at the higher level, and then the Executive Secretary or the Secretariat as well. So that provides the overall directives, and this one comes at ministerial level. It's under the ministries relevant to qualification frameworks. We have generally ministers of education, ministers of higher education, ministers of science, technology, and innovation, whatever they are called in their respective countries. But for the purpose of this qualification framework, we have a ministerial committee, and that ministerial committee, as we are here now, is advised by the experts. And for this purpose now, we have thematic experts, qualifications framework experts. We could have other experts. So the experts committee will be various, but the structure actually provides that one unit for the experts committee. And then below that, I think the regional thematic committees or thematic experts, and then the regional coordination or implementing organs. So this, we just want to simplify it, and then we follow also the overall IGAD organogram in terms of the high-level policy making. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. As I mentioned, in this morning session, we'll finish all the presentations by IGAD, and then we'll go for a healthy break. We'll come for recommendations, for final recommendation and validation of the IGAD framework. And after that, we'll be left only with the closing remarks. So now the floor is for the gentleman to present his paper. Any other pioneer from IGAD, I hope to be ready if they want to make any additional remarks or comments. Also, the floor will be opened for comments and questions.
Thank you. My name is Vincent Koech. I'm in charge of ICT at Kenya National Qualifications Authority. My colleagues who have spoken before me have been able to share about the Kenya National Qualifications Framework. And today I'm just here to take you through the exercise of building a database of qualifications using ICT. And I start by saying a database is a collection of logically related records. The records we are talking about here is qualifications. And the scope of the qualifications that we are holding in our database is in the Kenyan context. And I'll start by, in the next slide, I'll start by describing the basic things that you need to know about this database. Oh, it's there. So our database is what we are referring to as Kenya National Learners Records Database. That is as defined by our law, which is the Kenya National Qualifications Framework. This is a comprehensive database which acts as a central repository for all the learners' records. And the learners that I'm referring to here are the graduates. The structure of this database is very robust, which allows minimum intervention, and it helps us to manage the Kenya National Qualifications Framework. This enables the Kenya National Qualifications Authority to report accurately on most aspects of education and training in Kenya. Another terminology that I want to introduce before I continue is NAKIMS. There is a system that we are using to manage this database. And the system is referred to as National Qualification Information Management System. In short, NAKIMS. Some people refer to it as NAKUMIS. It is a system that is used to manage the KNLRD or the database by integrating the three basic operations. One, registering all the qualification awarding institutions in the country, the graduates. So what we are interested in there could be the graduates from the various academic programs that are offered by those QAIs. The image there may not be quite visible, but I was just trying to describe what QAIs is in detail. It comprises of universities, TVET institutions, professional bodies, and also any other institution that is mandated to issue qualifications in Kenya. So as mentioned earlier on, this system that we're using to manage our database has 3 objectives. Objective number 1 is to register all the qualification awarding institutions. After registering all the qualification awarding institutions, we also register their respective qualifications, and thereafter register all the learners that are coming out from every qualification that has been registered. This is a step-by-step process, meaning you cannot register qualifications before registering an institution or a QAI. And you cannot register learners before registering the qualifications. And that is exactly the way we have done it in the system-wise, so that you don't go to step number 2 before completing step number 1, and so on and so forth. At the end of it all this information that has been captured on step 1, 2, 3 goes to our Kenya National Learners Records database. And at the tail end of the KNLRD database, we have provided a portal where somebody can create an account, log into the portal, and be able to query the information that is found in that database. So if you want to find out about the programs that are offered by a QAI, you can be able to find it on the portal. If you want to verify the learners registered against each and every qualification, it is also available on the portal. These are the data streams that we have for the database. As I mentioned earlier on, NAKIMS in the previous screen is used to capture the 3 steps that I mentioned. But it is not only NAKIMS that is giving us the information to the database. There is some other 3 applications there that we are also using to capture the information directly on the database. One of them is what we call the QAV. This is a portal for alignment and validation of qualifications, where we do recognition, equation, and verification. When a qualification gets into our country from outside, the first step is either to align that qualification to our framework. And after the alignment has been done, that information also gets to the database. The same applies to a new system called RPLMIS. For all the candidates who go through the recognition of prior learning as a pathway, we also capture their information in the database. There is also the KCATS. For the students who apply for credit accumulation and transfer when they are moving from one institution to another, we also capture the same information in our database. So you can see the streams of information getting to our database is not only from NAKIMS or the National Qualification Information Management System, but we also have other sources. This may not be comprehensive. We also have some other small platforms that we use to provide this information to the database, like what we call the Chetumwitu platform. Chetumwitu platform is a simple application that we have opened up through our website so that members of the public can be able to report cases of fake certificates whenever they come in contact. We did that as a test case, but the information that we are getting in that platform is also enormous, and we are mapping it to the database. As you know, one of the ways of getting rid of fake certificates is to have a database of all the legitimate qualifications. Another way is the one that I've just mentioned, where you can have a list of all the fake certificates. That is a journey that we have just begun, and you can also map it to the database. This is the framework of the system that we operate. As you can see, it is quite complicated. At the center of it, we have 4 servers. The first server is used for developing the system. Because as you can see, every day we get new ideas and we keep on improving our system. So whenever we get a new idea that we need to incorporate into our system, we take it to the production where the developers can be able to put it in place. After putting in place, server number 2 is used for testing, so that everything that has been developed is fully tested before it goes to the production. So server number 2 is for testing, and then number 3 is for production. That is where everything takes place. And then server number 4 is used for as a backup of the production server. In the periphery, we have several stakeholders that play several different roles in this system, starting from professional bodies, the employers, the regulators like SCAC, CUE, TVETA, NITA, and so on and so forth. The policymakers can also be able to access this information in real time. Of course, KNQA is there. The universities as a QAI and TVET institution. And also the learners is playing a very key role because they are the ones that the records are being kept with respect to the information provided by the learners. It may look simple the way it is here, but behind the scenes, it has a lot of the coding and the activities that go on inside that system is quite rigorous. As you can see on the sides, we have the APIs. The application programming interfaces are the ones that allow these stakeholders to access this system. A technology that we have employed in the management of this qualification is what we are calling the blockchain. That is what I want to discuss in the next slide. We found out that this technology of blockchain is becoming a very important tool in the management of this qualification. Traditionally, this is like a distributed ledger that is used to exchange information and records in real time. We found the reason why we embrace this technology is because it is highly secure. One of the aspects that we are really considering in the design of this database is the issue of integrity, so that whenever information gets into the database, it should be information that should be trusted. The reason why we are embracing this technology of blockchain is because you cannot alter the information that gets into either of the 4 databases that I have mentioned in the previous screens. And if something is altered, it can be reported in real time. Remember, every transaction is recorded as a block across multiple copies of the ledger, and it is distributed over the nodes. This is the reason why KNQA is leveraging on the blockchain technology to create a revolution in the Kenya's qualifications sector. There's a diagram on the screen there that is trying to depict how we used to operate before we came up with the database. On the left side, every qualification awarding institution is operating as a silo, keeping their information in segregated databases that are not centralized. And on the right side, we have a more organized way that we have used blockchain in order to achieve this, where employers, government institutions, the qualification awarding institution can be able to exchange the information in real time with the help of the blockchain technology. In the 3 steps that I mentioned earlier, where we capture the information about an institution through the accreditation process, whatever I've listed there is just some of the requirements that we look at before an institution is accredited. I will not be able to go into the details, but I'll share the presentation. The same applies to when we are registering a qualification. Those are the items that we also look at. On the 3rd step, which is registration of the learners or registration of the graduates, we normally focus on 2 data sets. Number 1, on the left side of the screen, we want to know information about the graduate. On the right side, we want to know the information about a qualification that has been awarded to a graduate. And as you can see, What we are using, whatever I've indicated in red there, is what we are referring to as the primary key. The primary key is what we are using when we are querying the database. Whatever has been highlighted in bold is what we refer to as mandatory information, or the basic information that we require for that qualification to get into the database. The others on the left side especially, which are not bolded, those could just be some extra information that we require to know about the graduate, and they are used for analytics purposes. From where we started, what we discovered is that most of the qualification awarding institutions may not be capturing this information the way we had anticipated, or by collecting all this information that we have listed. But what we are doing right now is giving them these templates so that they can populate all the required information. At some point, we discovered that some institutions were not even capturing basic information like the ID numbers of the learners. We use ID numbers for locals and passport numbers for foreign students. There is also a debate that is going on. The ministry has introduced what we call the name is number, which can be used to track a learner from the basic level of education all the way to the university. Maybe when that matures, we can be able to map the same to the database. The immediate benefits that we have been able to realize as a result of the implementation of this database, we can be able to generate real-time analytics which is showing the trends about the qualifications in our country. It has improved on the efficiency or the turnaround time of accessing this information. Like, for example, in the past, when in the verification process, you have to write to a qualification awarding institution, which may be time-consuming, and sometimes it has a lot of delays. But when you have a centralized database, you can be able to access the information in real time, and that you can be able to move faster. Labor market, mobility of manpower, information, decisions are made using the information, so policy formulation becomes very easy, and also the trust and transparency of qualifications become very easy. There is an array of challenges that we have gone through in the result of doing all this. I won't be able to go into the details because I'll share the presentation. Some of them we have classified as minor challenges, others moderate, and some are very major. We are trying to address all these challenges in the next slide. As you can see, there are some challenges that are being addressed on the side of the QAIs, on the side of KNQA, general public, and also on the learners. I've given a breakdown of what is going on at every stage in order to address the challenges that was listed in the previous screen. I also want to mention an aspect of integration of systems. What we discovered at some point is that this database may not work alone without integrating with other systems that are running at various government agencies. We have already integrated fully with eCitizen platform, and the eCitizen platform is offering a one-stop shop for all the government services in our country. Plans are underway to integrate to the immigration integration population and registration system, so that by the time somebody is moving from one country to another, we can be able to capture it from there before it even gets to the database. And also for verification, so that when you key in an ID number of an individual as a learner, you can be able to tell whether that ID number is legitimate and it is mapped to the right owner. Other integrations that are coming will be the Ministry of ICT IGAD digital platform, and the database will help them a lot in the verification of qualifications. Ministry of Labor, Kenya Labor Management Information System. This will link the academia to the labor market very easily. And another agency that is also coming on board is the National Employment Authority with their management information systems that can be able to verify user qualifications very easily. Moving forward, there are 3 areas that we are looking at in the improvement of this database: upgrading and integration on the infrastructure side, improving of security. If time could not allow, one of the challenges was a security issue. So to improve on it, we are embracing the current latest technologies in terms of safeguarding information. And also, we are putting a lot of effort in training and capacity building of the users so that they can be able to manage this database in a better way. As I mentioned in the previous screen about the aspect of the integration, every IGAD member state can have their database, and these databases can be integrated. And on the integration at the IGAD member state level, it can also be done continental-wide as we focus on the African qualification framework. With those few remarks, I wish to rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other presentations from IGAD Secretariat, Prof? Before we proceed to the questions and comments?
Chair, we have 10 minutes of questions, and then we have Eduardo Castelbranco, who's online, who will do a 10-minute demonstration. So we have 10 minutes for question and answer at this time.
We do it now, and then we will proceed for the questions. And
Eduardo, are you online? Should we? Hi, Eduardo, are you online now?
Hello, yes. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
Online, yes.
Excellent, good morning. Would you be able to do your presentation now, and then collectively we can take questions after your presentation? Thank you. You'll share your screen? Okay, okay, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and I would like to congratulate Vincent for the excellent presentation and to MQA for the incredible progress. Thanks so much for allowing me to be here today. So, colleagues, what I wanted to share with you from the experience of the European Union and also European Training Foundation is some information on existing online tools and platforms that simplify and provide access to information, detailed and real-time updated information on national qualifications frameworks, as well as other elements that concern the ecosystem of qualifications. So let me first of all show you the platform in the EQF Europass website, which, as you see, is compare national qualifications frameworks across Europe. So this information here is based on the referencing reports. So when countries reference their national qualifications frameworks to a regional qualifications framework, such as the European qualifications framework, then this comparison is done with this tool. You can then select two countries. I'm just going to select two countries with different number of levels. Let's take, for example, France and Ireland. So France, as you know, has 8 levels framework. Ireland has 10 levels framework. And we compare. So the tool provides us this view. As you can see, countries can easily know to what level of the French qualifications framework corresponds a qualification from a learner or a worker coming from Ireland, for example, into Paris, let's say. So employers have this easy access to this information. So an Irish qualification of level 5 is referenced to EQF level 4, and the French framework level 4 is also referenced to level 4 of EQF. So here you can easily see, I think, the role, the value of this referencing between different qualifications frameworks. And in this case, they are really different because they are even structured in different manner. However, the comparison is possible, and then this information is easily accessible. You can, of course, do your own exercise. I have pasted in the chat box the links. You can navigate and you can use just easy and free. Another tool I'd like also to mention is a tool created, nurtured, and maintained by CEDEFOP. CEDEFOP is the European Union agency that is working closely in technical terms with the European Qualifications Framework and its advisory group. So CEDEFOP has this online tool, as you can see, National Qualifications Frameworks online tool. And as you see, the purpose here is regional. So it's all countries within a certain community of countries working on a common qualifications framework, regional qualifications framework. So this tool has different chapters here. First of all, this one very important page that provides you very brief synthetic information on the qualifications frameworks, status of development, different features like number of levels, level descriptors, the legal base, also the website of that particular qualifications framework, and also the website or the platform of the qualifications register or database of that country. So it's quite easy to use. This is all very synthetic, and of course then you can click the different links to go wherever you are interested in. Countries, this is a map showing you the stage of development of the national qualifications frameworks across the countries of the EQF. Then you have a framework comparison, and this is more or less the same tool that we have seen earlier in the case of the EQF. Very quickly, it's simply a little. Here you have then a very kind of more detailed presentation in text base. So what we have here, for example, I just selected 2 countries randomly, Austria and Denmark, reporting year 2020. So this is more detailed, comprehensive information structured in a similar manner for all countries, comparable. This is all based on the annual inventory. It is a biannual inventory, but then it is updated every year. So this information is also quite useful. And this is the comparison, the qualifications comparison. Again, we select countries randomly. Greece, for example, and you can then see the same, more or less the same type of information, but a little bit better visible that we had in the first platform that I demonstrated earlier. So you can see all the types of qualifications as they are allocated by level in the 2 frameworks that are being compared. The EQF, of course, in the middle as a translation device. And then you can go into the links here, show more details about the different qualifications types, and to get more detailed information. Let me then also please just raise your attention, and it will be just 1 minute, to the ACQF website, which many of you know. I think you have been downloading, for example, training modules and presentations when we were at our training week in Johannesburg early September. What I wanted just to mention here is the following. In this website, there is a very rich, let's say, collection of information, especially on African, naturally, qualifications frameworks, RPL systems, governance, mapping study, and so on. You can use the search here, the search function. Imagine you are interested in level descriptors. You do a search, and the system gives you, as you can see, 107 items. If you are interested in knowing more information, theoretical, on level descriptors, or then the concrete examples of level descriptors in different frameworks. Another element that I also wanted to show is this under resources. this inventory, the NQF inventory. So we are building and completing gradually as we collect more information from countries. Now there are new countries that have adopted their national qualifications frameworks, and the information is available. So in this snapshot, you can then, for example, Morocco, Kenya, Mauritius, Seychelles, Cape Verde. Let us look at Cape Verde, a country that has a framework already with 10 years experience, and with it's a 8 levels framework. You have a brief information, snapshot information, and then you have here architecture. So all the levels with the corresponding typical description, typical qualifications, qualifications types, and then all the level descriptors, and here they are presented in English. So it is also a useful resource, and we are updating it and creating additional pages for comparison of qualifications frameworks. Basically, this is all I can say in these 10 minutes. But before closing, I'd like just to tell a word to, especially to Vincent, the colleagues, Vincent and KNQA, about the ETF project on a big data for labor market information. We are now creating a similar system, data system for Kenya, working together with the Kenyan authority, employment authority, and the Ministry of Labor. This is just here an overview of the data system created recently for Egypt. It is based on data, big data, so online data, online job vacancies, and this analysis is based on data science, and it is, of course, real time. If you are also interested, you can navigate. And let's hope that in the future ACQF 2 project can do something similar for more countries. And have this information on labor market on demand also available in such online platforms, interactive, and that can be connected with the qualifications platforms. So I stop sharing. Thank you so much for this time, and sorry for being quick.
Thank you very much, Madam. We are happy that you are being with us. Fortunately, we are going within the schedule. I hope we keep this momentum up to the end of the day. So if there is no other presentation from IGAD, we'll proceed for questions and comments. But before that, a slight change in the program we are going to propose. After this session, we'll be having the coffee break. After we come from the coffee break, then will be final recommendation session. The proposal is the closing remarks to be followed by the final recommendations. And after that, we go for lunch. That means when we go for lunch, no need to come back again. So all are free to leave the venue. Those who are traveling or going to Kampala or going to Lake, they are free. So this is a proposal. Those with this proposal, they can raise their hand kindly. Will be after the final recommendations, will be followed by the closing remarks. And after that, we go for lunch. Kindly, those who are supporting this proposal, raising their hands. Okay, then we will go like that. In fact, I notice, although we are in the morning time, people are lazy and sleepy. So let us have 2 minutes healthy break, stretching our body while we are standing with some African musics. Please. So please stand up.
for my filo? Rest on me like pillow. I'ma go for 10 kilo, 10 kilo. Nothing we I no go do for my filo. Rest on me like pillow. I'ma go do 10 kilo.
That side is still at the sleepy. Yes, that side, please. That side is still at the sleepy. Yes, that side. Yes, there, yes. Very good. Secretariat, very good. Yes, please.
Nothing I no go do for my pillow. My personal holo show. For the days I'm on the low. Nothing I no go do for my baby. We cuss and then discuss and fuck. She know the record. When I hit her, my hammer, my selector. I know those pass a nigga. She did take a pimpin' that. I cannot play with.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. I think now we have energy enough to proceed with the questions and comments on all presentations has been done. Yes, please.
Thank you, Chair, for your directions. Thank you for the excellent presentations, which were really very, very relevant. Listening to the consistent and very interesting presentations that we have from South African Qualification Authority, European Union Qualification Authority, and having really went through the documents, my questions here for the IGAD member state is, what is our regional point of origins? As an example, this regional qualification framework is building our integrations process. It's one of the central even elements of what we are aspiring to become. This is why this question has to be a bit sorted out into a document, because it breaches our aspiration. Just giving you an example. I personally came from a French university. I studied due to the values and origins, of what we can say the recognitions. We are doing huge work here. We will have to work on people who will come from Khartoum University, at this university. What this regional qualification framework, what is the value of this regional qualification when it will come to highlight the quality of our education system as a reference, as an origins of reference. For example, let's say that we have Austria University, French University, as we were looking, European University offering training. And our universities being on the same market, offering university, which university do you think that the people will take? This is where we have to say something on what is our, what values do we give to all this process, to all these efforts, so that we take ourselves, our own university, our own learning systems or qualification system as a reference point, not to be, demined in front of other systems. This is something that should be reflected in the document. And I felt that it's something which is missing. This will give us a bargaining power as a region, because we are not just using terms, qualifications, or a kind of institutional mimetism, but we are doing something which goes at the level of the values, because all the things we are doing are linked with values, with vision. And I didn't see the vision that we have to define toward the others' world, or to define and to bridge with without being, impressed by the European qualification systems, which work with the labor market, with other political realities. So this has to be, it will give somehow a substance to this framework, defining our horizons of reference. That's just a comment who might be relevant or not relevant, but it's really something that I threw on the tables of this panel of experts. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate. You are from, please, which country? Your flag is not clear.
From the Peace and Security Division of IGAD, I'm the counter-terrorism pillar
Thank you.
IGAD,
Thank you
sir.
very much. Wonderful. Yes, please, Ethiopia.
Thank you very much. I also want to say thank you to all the presenters. Even our stay was very fruitful. I have personally taken a lot of lessons, particularly from the presentations made by Kenya. When I listen to their presentations, what comes to my mind is if we work hard, we can make it reality within a short period of time for all state members. So I want to say thank you to all the presentations, and as we can see also from the document, it says the main aim of the document is not to dictate or to regulate the activities in the member states, rather to supplement it, to complement, or just to as a referencing point. It's good, it's very good. This is one thing that I really liked, but I want to say that we don't have to be as such very much shy also to come to the middle point, because if we have to have a harmonized regional qualification framework, every every member state should leave its comfort zone and come to the middle point, and to think about our education system, our educational structures, because they can be changed, they can be modified, and still we have our own things. Therefore, keeping our own things, our own context, but we have to think differently and come to the middle point to have a harmonized national qualification. Just one question is, for Kenya, how were you able to win the attention of higher officials to come to this level? Is the experience that we want to take. So can you please explain how you are able to win the attention, the commitment of the higher officials? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Sudan.
I want to talk about the importance between the links or matches between the qualification framework and the IGAD, the International Standard Classification of Education. For example, we in qualification framework say that we have 8 levels. We find the bachelor degree in qualification framework at level 6, and in the IGAD level at grade 6, level 6. But a type of qualification in IGAD, we have 5 types of qualification for bachelor degree. So bachelor for 6 years in IGAD have its IGAD code 476. Higher diploma 1 year in IGAD have their IGAD code 667. Bachelor 5 years for academic in IGAD have their IGAD code 646, and bachelor 5 technical years in IGAD have their IGAD code 656, and bachelor 3 to 4 years have the IGAD code 645. We cannot find this in the qualification framework, so it is important for the IGAD qualification framework to match or link this qualification framework with the IGAD to get more information and more obvious for our qualification type. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Sudan. Ethiopia. Before we give you the floor, we'll see other state countries, and then we'll come back to you. Now, South Sudan.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question for Dr. Makwano. What are the basic tools when we are coming to develop the national qualification framework? And what is the link between the curriculum? Because various countries, they have the curriculum already. The curriculum will be the basis for development of the qualification tools, or it's opposite? We'll develop the qualification framework, then again we come and we review the curriculum. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful, South Sudan. Direct and brief question. That's what we want. Please, direct and brief questions and comments. Please, before we go to Sudan and Ethiopia, any other dignitaries? Yes, please.
Bismillah. Thanks for the presenters. Starting from the beginning of the session and up to now, the presentations were really relevant and impressive, and all participants were really interactive, proactive, and the discussion was also fruitful. That is something to be appreciated. And after that, I would like to say here, there is always high rate of unemployment among the region due to mismatch of the skills taught at the schools and the labor market demand. This issue has been a long-standing challenge, and the question is now, do we have an approach here, or in these ongoing efforts, are we trying to bridge this gap between the labor supply and labor market demand? That is to say, are we putting in place, in parallel with this effort, like labor market information, which will of course provide a significant information to the supply side? Is this existing? Because at the end of the day, we want to have those graduates or school leavers to very soon engage in the labor market. So, and if there is a gap there, then I think there will always a problem remaining there, unless we match the labor market demand and the skill supply from the training institutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Somalia. Thank you. Dr. Hassan Barakat, please, has 5 minutes presentations. Be ready. We'll give you a floor after some minutes. Now Ethiopia and then Sudan. Please. No, I'll give you the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for, I would like to thank all the presenters for their inviting the presentations, and IGAD to create this platform to share our experiences. We learn much. My question goes to Professor. The issue of credit transfer and outcomes-based education. We are a little challenged, so that I want to get a clarification. We are talking about credit transfer and the volume of learning, and on the other side, we are trying to implement the outcomes-based education, which is not depend on the time. So in my country, where the TVET sector is applying this outcomes-based education, which is not considering the volume of learning in terms of credit, and instead it calculates the outcomes, the competence. So we are a bit challenged. So to make a progression pathway from Tibet to the higher education sector uses this credit, and the Tibet sector uses this, the so-called competence. Once it's the learner assessed, we certified competent and not competent. And if a student wants to join to the university are not allowing them. So how can you align this the issue of credit and competence-based education? This is a question. With regard to the work-based learning, or the place where yesterday when we were discussing about these types of qualifications, the cycles, and their relationship between the education cycles from primary to higher education, the long journey. And when you talk about the qualifications, where qualification talks at the exit level. So how can we inculcate the competences from the non-formal and the informal sector? How can we put it in the structure of this qualification? These were my questions. Thank you very much.
Sudan.
My question is to the Professor Mukwana. In our traditional assessment system, we use written exams. So written exams assess to what extent the student acquires the knowledge and understanding. So when we are moving to the learning outcomes, that means we are going to assess competencies. So what mechanisms and methods can be used to assess the competencies? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll end this session. Before we end this session, we'll give the chance to dignitaries who presented the presentation to address all the questions and comments as being raised by member states. Yes, please, South Sudan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two comments for Koesh regarding registration of graduates. In the details, I think in some other countries like in Sudan and South Sudan, we have the question of patterns. You see, in Sudan, we have those who sit in Arabic pattern and those who follow the English pattern. So if we would like to capture the details, maybe we would need to capture exactly what the pattern is, because it has implications on either the language that the person will receive training in, and I want also to bring in the issue of language. In Ethiopia, you know the language there, or the languages. In South Sudan, there is Arabic and English, and maybe in some other countries you see maybe like Kiswahili. So I don't know if the question of language can also be included in the details that we capture from the graduates that we register. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Dr. Hassan Barakat. Dr. Hassan Barakat from Djibouti would like to present your presentation from there or from the podium. Where is Dr. Hassan Barakat? Online? Online. Yes, yes, please.
You hear me? Yeah, just.
Yes, please go ahead, doctor.
Yes, just I have one slide to present. It's 5 minutes, no? Just to present the certification in Djibouti. So how can I share my slide? You
Hi, Dr. Barakat, you can share your screen or you can email it to me.
Okay, it's okay. Just
Dr. Kebede said you should have come.
Yes. partager un écran. OK. Bon, je vais parler en français hein, parce que tant que je me sens à l'aise en français. Bonjour tout le monde. Donc,
one moment, please. One moment. You all have translation devices on your desks. Thank you.
OK, donc je vais vous présenter un peu. Ce côté-là. Ce que je vais vous présenter ici, c'est les différents niveaux de certification qui existent à Djibouti. En fait, la présentation est différente. Hein. Ils mettent comme niveau et les niveaux sont inversés. Donc, j'ai adapté un peu aux modèles qui existent dans les autres pays. Donc, l'idée, c'est de comprendre un peu les différents niveaux qui existent à Djibouti. Donc, ici, on a 9 niveaux. Et donc, la première, c'est le niveau primaire. Après, c'est les secondaires. Et donc, les niveaux 3 et 4, c'est des niveaux de certification.
For vocational school, level 3 and 4. Level 3 is certificates for level 4 is almost closer to the baccalaureate level, and then level 5, and then level 5
un niveau général ou des baccalauréats professionnels. Et donc, après, au niveau 6, on arrive à l'enseignement supérieur. Donc, sur l'enseignement supérieur, il y a 4 niveaux. Et donc, il y a ce qu'on appelle un niveau Bac plus 2. Donc, c'est les DUT et des BTS, et qui existent encore. Et après, les 3 niveaux supérieurs sont les niveaux, en fait, bachelor, master, doctorat. Et c'est les systèmes LMD qui existent, en fait, qui est maintenant adopté normalement. Donc, et donc, nous, on a mis au niveau 7 là, tout ce qui est bachelor, que ce soit professionnel ou général. Et le niveau 8, c'est master. Et master, on trouve aussi, il y a un diplôme d'ingénieur qui existe. Et le niveau 9, qui est les doctorats.
bachelor level, masters and doctorate.
Et reconnaissance. Et bon, pour les niveaux, les diplômes, les certifications qui ne sont pas dans ces cadres-là, il y a normalement au ministère de l'Enseignement, il y a une direction qui s'occupe de ça. C'est tout ce qui est formalisation et contrôle de diplôme. Il y a en bas, je vous ai mis un décret qui fixe les conditions, qui donne des équivalences. Et donc, je pense que là, on parle des cadres de certification de l'IGAD. Ça nous permettra un peu de comprendre les autres diplômes qui existent. Je pense qu'aujourd'hui, on n'est pas là pour s'adapter aux autres pays. L'idée, c'est de se comprendre entre nous. Lorsque quelqu'un du Kenya ou Ouganda vient à Djibouti, avoir un autre diplôme, c'est de savoir les mettre à quel niveau il est. Et donc, il y a un décret pour ça qui reconnaît. Donc, et à l'intérieur, il y a des commissions qui sont à ce niveau-là. Donc voilà, en fait, ce qui existe à Djibouti. Et donc, je pense que c'est le temps nécessaire. Je vous remercie. Hein.
Merci beaucoup, Dr. Hassan Barakat, muy bien presentado. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we proceed to the coffee break, I would like just to suggest for the delegates, we minimize the time for coffee break. Instead of half an hour, just we take 15 minutes. If you don't mind, just we take 15 minutes. No, before. Now we'll give you the floor, Prof. with your team, you can answer the questions and comments. Now the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. I will keep it very brief. I will respond to a few things, and I will ask my colleague Vincent to respond, and I think Eduardo is also online. But just to start with what Dr. Hassan has presented, for Djibouti, I see a very good, well structure for academics. What is missing there is the TVET. Maybe at some point he can respond. Where is the TVET so that it makes it complete?
The TVET is inside. It's inside. We have three level in with TVET. Even the baccalaureate there is a baccalaureate, what we call baccalaureate professional. Yeah. It's a TVET graduation. So the TVET is inside.
Okay, thank you.
And then the general education,
you ask him?
Yes, Prof. Yes, Prof, please.
Okay.
Yeah, proceed.
Okay, thank you. So I think the question you raised about the value of the regional qualification framework, one of the unintended purposes when we developed our qualification framework, we thought we were just organizing ourselves. One of the areas that we've seen now is there's a lot of interest by employers, because once you have a database, the employers spend a lot of money to try to look for employees. Now they're seeing a place where they can easily get people to employ. So not just nationally, but we see internationally. So as Vincent was talking, now we are integrating our database with something called IGAD Digital, which are Kenyans that are working online internationally. So you can see that the value of this database can really go up. The other issue that I want to respond to is the quick issue of how do you get political goodwill. And I just wondered if you can share the video 1 minute. You'll see, for example, RPL, which Alice was presenting, our own president that were left actually pronounced himself on an issue like RPL. Then I'll continue. One, if you can just go, the link.
The dignity that we seek to restore through livelihoods, I believe will give every Kenyan an opportunity to participate in economic development. For instance, many of our Juakali artisans and craftsmen, the dignity that we seek to restore through livelihoods, I believe will give every Kenyan an opportunity to participate in economic development. For instance, many of our Juakali artisans and craftsmen have had to endure the inequity in the tendering of contracts because of their lack of ability to get certification, hereby denying them the opportunity to get access to work. I am announcing, therefore, today a new initiative by my administration to provide a framework for the recognition of their skills through the awards of certificates based on competence in order to enable our Juakali sector participate in various economic opportunities that have currently been denied to them. In this regard, I today direct the Ministry of Education through the Kenya National Qualifications Authority to, within 1 month of this date, issue a policy framework for the comprehensive recognition of prior learning. This policy intervention will expand the opportunities for artisans and craftsmen in our Juakali sector to participate more meaningfully in our economy.
From the highest office in the land. And so if we are all able to leverage on our connections with the policy making, so this made it very easy for us. We were given 1 month to actually roll out an RPL policy, which we had already developed, and was facing a bit of resistance, even from some people. So once this pronouncement was made,
Recording in progress.
then we found it very easy to roll out that framework. So I think it's important that if you have room with the political class, with the government, that we make use of it to really roll out these issues. So let me then ask Vincent to respond, and then
I will respond to the question of how it can be made possible to accommodate various patterns of education vis-a-vis the issue of the language. And my response is that yes, this is possible. With databases, there is an aspect called segregation. With segregation, you can be able to segregate the database, even if the different patterns may be having different level descriptors. You can be able to map them, and system-wise, the mapping can also be done behind the scenes. Thank you.
Maybe on the issue of assessing, you said, how do you assess competences? Alice didn't go there yesterday, but we have a very comprehensive framework of how to assess competences using a method called portfolio of evidence. I already indicated that if you go to our website, if you just Google Facebook and you put RPL Kenya, there's lots of videos there, including the portfolio of evidence, including some videos us conducting RPL. So this is a method that we've now perfected. We did it on a pilot. It has worked very well. So different levels require different levels of amounts of information for you to certify the candidate, but it has worked extremely well. Eduarda?
Karibu. Asante sana, Dr. Mukwana. My Kiswahili needs some improvement, Dr. Mukwana, so I look forward.
Some work to do, I see.
Thanks so much for this excellent morning. I already congratulated Vincent for the presentation and the progress. And let me then, since Dr. Mukwana asked me to also contribute to this discussion, let me just share some thoughts based on, let me say, the European Union experience. So since the European Union, the EQF, in a way, would be kind of a partner, from the point of view of the scope, being also a regional framework, a community of countries such as IGAD or ICQF for the African Union. So there was a very interesting question and, let's say, position and challenge posed by the colleague from IGAD about, let's say, the perspectives, the vision, and the place of such a framework in terms of integration and development. And here, what I could say is the following. In the context of the European Union, there have been, there is a process of every, let's say, 5 to 10 years, a review of a skills policy, skills strategy, skills agenda. And we are now already at our third European Union skills agenda. So the first big one was in 2008. Then it was updated in 2012, then again in 2016. In 2020, also in response to the new challenges of the COVID era, the skills agenda was again reviewed. So the skills agenda is like a wide and comprehensive in terms of policy questions that it addresses, a platform for reflection, for policy making, and for policy support in terms of programs, in terms of measures and financing. And the European Qualifications Framework has been part of the skills agenda since 2008, when it was first enacted. And at the same time, alongside the European Qualifications Framework, there are other important policies, such as, for example, skills anticipation, skills analysis and skills anticipation, exactly, let's say, the demand and supply side analysis, skills matching. So that's one important area of the skills agenda. Recognition of prior learning, validation of non-formal and informal learning is another important area of the skills agenda. Also, other elements that I could mention now is, for example, digital certificates, as well as the European education area with the automatic recognition of qualifications. So these are some of the areas. What I want to say is that this skills agenda is then a platform with different policy areas. And the EQF is one of these policy instruments, and they have to work with each other. They have to have links, bridges, and synergies. They complement each other. Maybe this is how I would like to contribute to the question and challenge posed at the start of this questions and answers session. Regarding, there was an interesting question also raised about IGAD. So the use of IGAD as a reference point for structuring qualifications frameworks, national or regional, and a concrete, let's say, request of aligning level 6 qualifications, which are, let's say, the bachelor, when we think about an eight level structure, with the various groups of level 6 of IGAD 2011. It is a good reference point, no doubt, but maybe I would just add that national qualifications frameworks, in fact, they need to reflect the existing structure of the education and training system, especially the levels that issue concrete qualifications. And so if a country has just one or two sub-levels, let's say, in post-secondary, and for example, Djibouti had a very good example, so the DUT, level 6, and then the bachelor at level 7. So this is, for example, a very concrete proposition, and it corresponds to the existing system. We need to bear in mind that IGAD is, of course, a very important reference classification, but it is especially conceived for statistics, for statistics of education. And so you can have in one level of the qualifications frameworks different sub-levels of IGAD. But it's all a matter of concept, of clarification, and definition of your national qualifications levels according to level descriptors. So that's why the level descriptors are so fundamental when you define your qualifications framework. I know that time is running short, and I just wanted to mention also a colleague, I think from Ethiopia, who again emphasized the importance of matching. So the supply demand information and insights data, so that there is a proximity, approximation, correspondence, and coherence between the production of education and training systems, qualification systems, and the requirements, demands, trends in the labor market on the demand side. I think that's, of course, a very fundamental question, and I'm glad it has been raised since the first day of this important event. And there are also different ways of addressing that fundamental let's say, challenge of every government, every country on the globe, I would say, not only IGAD, of course. And again, let me refer just as an example. It is not a perfect example at all. It's just an example. In the context of the European Union and the European Qualifications Framework and the Skills Agenda, a lot of work has been done in the last, let's say, especially 10 years on systems to analyze, anticipate demand for skills. skills and qualifications by occupations, by sectors, and a number of methods are being used to complement each other. And all this information in very interactive form, readable, with maps, with dashboards, is available on the website of CDFOP. I will share also the link on the chat box, and you are welcome, please, to use. And as I was saying, European Training Foundation is creating also a similar system, a data system, demand analysis, including also countries of sub-Saharan Africa. And I already placed there in the chat box one example. So it is really fundamental that websites, platforms, digital platforms, using all the computing power, data science that exists currently, can put together information on demand and on supply sides, and that everybody can use it. Also for career guidance, also for example, progression in occupations and jobs.
Thank you very much, Madam.
Systems that needs to respond to those trends. That's all I could say now.
Thank you very much. Wonderful of you, and that is true. We are running short of time. We'll give you, it's okay? Okay, thank you very much. Now we can proceed to coffee break, and then we come for recommendation. The session for recommendation is supposed to be 2 hours. If you be generous enough, we make it 1.5 hours, will be all right. Prof.
Suggestion is the chairs and the secretaries for each group will work with us here. So which means that the rest of the team would have a free hour. There's a shopping center down there. So they'll leave some money in Uganda. So we will have our after tea. The rest of us can have 1 hour at the shopping mall at your own cost. As Sagal and the secretary and the chair put together the recommendations, we try and meet at 12, if that works. Okay.
So the session is for recommendation is for how long? That means after meeting the chairmen. Yes, please.
So if we could ask all the chairs and secretaries from each of the 4 groups yesterday to get some snacks quickly and come back into this room. Everybody else, you'll have an hour of free time. We'll reconvene at 12 p.m. noon.
Why don't do that during the coffee break now, as from now?
Yes, as from now.
As from now.
As from now. We all go
And
get
then-
our coffee, come back. The secretaries and chairs from the 4
Yes, as to
groups.
save time.
Yes.
So as from now, you and the chairman and secretaries to meet, and now is 10:40.
Yes.
10:30, then we meet.
We meet 12.
The rest of the team come back.
10:40, and then 11:30 we meet.
We will meet here at 12, but, please be on time. So 12 on the dot, please. 12 on the dot. And in terms of just some housekeeping, arrive from another destination, your facilitation will likely happen before lunch, we're hoping. So apologies for the delay on that as well. Thank you so much for your patience.
That means we'll meet at 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock. Okay, all right. Wish you all the best.